Good evening and welcome to the January 4th, 2018 Traffic and Safety Board meeting. Roll call. Stoker.
Here.
Hang.
Here.
Coda. Here. Samuel Moore.
Here.
Maureen Moore. Collins. And Chief Anderson.
Here.
Okay, next on the agenda is introductions of guests. If you can, please come forward to the microphone and state your name and address or, if applicable, company.
Pat Cawley with TIA. Patrick Shemansky. I live at 135 Gerald in Clawson for 3 decades. Would it be appropriate to ask one quick question at this time?
That'll be later on in the agenda.
I just don't know where in the
It
agenda.
would be underneath the new business.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Elisa Grossman. I reside at 596 Bowers.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes of December 7th, 2017.
I'll approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes of December 7th, 2017, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, next on the agenda is old business, item A, alleyway between Bowers and Lincoln.
Okay, I just had to report that everybody we were gonna do some research on it to find out, and I invited the Grossmans here tonight because we had a lot of questions the last time on the board about as far as how many vehicles are traveling there, what direction they're traveling and such. So I guess if we can have Mrs. Grossman, Mr. Grossman come up and tell us about it.
Well, it's starting to be a busy area. We now have a kickboxing location there that just moved in between the two and the candy store. And what we've been seeing, and it's been very cold, but over the summer we have some teenage drivers, one of which is my daughter too. But my brother almost got hit on his motorcycle from people just whipping out, going southbound to go west on Bowers. So that's really when I started paying attention to it. We just have a lot of small, young families now moving in. So, and there's a lot of kids, and people don't realize it's a dead end still. People will start flying down to get around through the alley. Sometimes they come through Lincoln and then go south to Bowers to try and get around the corner, turn around my driveway because I'm the last house on the left. And so we're just, we're watching. We're getting a lot of new people, a lot of new faces with the new businesses, which is great. But we're just getting concerned that when I was a kid, because I've lived here all my life, there was a stop sign at, was it Rags to Riches it used to be, that dry cleaning store? It was mounted up on the building. And that's been gone for several years now. So, we have 16 or 17 houses on the street. I use that alley daily, and so do my neighbors, because it's so much easier to go left, to go north, and then proceed west on Lincoln, because we're a dead end, instead of going out to Rochester and around to 14. So it's just
so
a
that would
bigger
answer your
increase with the new
question then as
businesses
far as
now.
okay.
So
It's not really the traffic, it's more of the danger of them taking the corner really fast.
Okay.
So that's really, traffic's not the issue, it's not, it's more the speed that they take the corner into Bowers and also back the other way to Lincoln.
So if I can just ask you this, I'm trying to get these directions here. If you're saying it's the corner, so is it coming off of Lincoln into the alley?
Right.
And off of Bowers
To
into
Bowers.
the alley?
Yes. So either way, either from Lincoln or from Bowers through the alley.
Okay. Thank you.
Michigan Door used to be there years ago,
Yeah.
and that's now the candy store.
Mm-hmm. And they do have, there's a kickboxing?
Yeah, the
They just opened
kickboxing
it
just
Just
opened.
a week ago maybe. So it's
And
a
so
new
we're seeing a
place.
lot of cars parking all over in there now, which is, it's great, but we're seeing a lot more people now.
Okay.
So are the vehicles coming? Are the vehicles mainly residents that are using it as a cut through?
Well,
or-
I know for sure, me and several of my neighbors, we're always using that alley daily, especially when we were going to Clawson High School, dropping off kids, wherever. That was a nice route. But, being down the other end, I see the turnarounds all the time.
So you would come off of Bowers, that's where you live, correct? So you would come off of Bowers, you'd make a a left
Into
and
the
then come
alley.
down to Lincoln and then go to the school?
Yes.
To avoid going on Rochester Road and then
All the way
14 Mile
around.
Road
Out
back
and
to Main
back.
Street.
Yes, and the return route, instead of making the left out from Rochester to 14, is you come in off High Street or Florence and take Lincoln and go back. That's the most common route I see with our neighbors too.
Well, I can tell you, we had Pat Cawley from TIA went out there and checked it out, and he was talking about sight distance issues first off, stop signs. There has to be a warrant for a stop sign, like a reason for a stop sign to legally enforce that stop sign. And one of the requirements is 2,000 vehicles a day. Do you think there's?
I don't think we get 2,000 a day.
So the other issue that comes in is sight distance issues to see, is there a problem when you're coming up to enter onto the roadway? Is the sight distance hampered where someone has to have a stop sign to make them stop before they go out? And what it was found was that there was not a sight distance issue at the south end, but there was at the
But
north
the
end.
north end, that's where the
Because
stop
corner
sign
of the
used to
building,
be.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
some recommendations from Mr. Cawley were to, possible recommendations, but it sounds like it might put a damper on people's style, which is what we were talking about. If it's residents using it, would be to make that alley, one of the things would be make that alley a one-way, which would make it go one way from Lincoln south to Bowers, which would take care of the,
The site?
yes, it would
The
be
site-
one way from Lincoln to
Yeah.
southbound.
Right.
Right.
Do you see that as being helpful for you at that situation?
It's certainly going to help, I think. Obviously, we like to go the other way around too.
Yeah.
That's what's
Back,
wondering, is it
but,
going to hinder,
that-
is it going to hinder you guys going towards the west at
I
all?
would much rather make a right-hand turn than a left-hand turn
Yeah,
anywhere.
which is fine. We can get out to.
Rochester to
the
14
right,
and
14,
around,
so.
which we
Well,
do
that's
quite
what the
often.
board was discussing last week. There was a big question of where the problem is. Where are these vehicles coming from? What's the need down there? Because another thing that was recommended by Mr. Cawley was talk to the business there on the north end, and since there's a sight distance issue, have a mirror mounted up, like a convex mirror, so that they can see a little better, a little clearer out when they approach that intersection, to hopefully that would let them see any kind of pedestrians or such like that.
Yeah, years ago, I don't know what brought a stop sign down. There used to be a stop sign at the north end, and it was mounted to the building that was there.
Yeah, and generally when stop signs are mounted to a building, it's something that probably the business owner probably put up at one
Oh,
time.
okay.
I was not able to find a traffic order for that stop sign at that location. I did find out that it is a city-owned and maintained alleyway. It's not privately, but that's about it, the most data that I could find out of that. We did run crash history. There's really no crash history to show, but you're saying there's near misses, but there's no crash history that are related to going out of the alley into or out of the alleyway. So, I don't know. I don't know if anybody else has anything else to.
Did Pat have any other recommendations at all?
Pat, do you have anything?
I think those were the only two things that came to mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Was there any other information to provide the
That's,
board at all?
I put a blast out to the various departments, and no one could add anything more to it as far as, who's using it or what, as far as, other than it's being a city alleyway and
Okay.
going through.
Do you know, Chief, do they plow that alleyway?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe they do. They maintain it, yeah.
All the time.
Yep.
So does that, are we gonna, if we do a one-way from Lincoln, just from Lincoln going south, is that gonna affect them as far as what they do?
I'm sure they can make adjustments. I mean, we have there's our other one-way areas, like on the southwest city lot. We have that one-way right now, that alleyway going along the businesses out there. And that's maintained. So they'd have to just plow in a one-way zone.
So they'd have to come in off of Lincoln and push towards
South.
Bowers.
Yep,
Okay.
pretty
That's
short.
actually how they do it. They usually come off of Lincoln, because Bowers Dead End were the last to get plowed. So they usually come from Lincoln, plow the alley, and then come down our street.
Ah,
I don't think there's a way of doing it the other way around, because it's just the corner there is too tight.
That's
Okay.
too tight, the corner at Lincoln's just too
Building
tight.
well, that answers that question.
So-
I think that takes care of that.
That might,
Yeah, and then I just read here too that there were 3 improvements, like one of them could be a pedestrian warning sign, watch for pedestrians.
okay, yeah, I
On
missed
that
that one.
north side.
Kind of like what we put up over at, or we had them put over at the Crooks Plaza.
Right.
You know, caution pedestrian, watch for pedestrians when entering.
They'll be great on the bar side.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
Definitely.
because people walk to the ice cream stand all summer long.
Kids,
Kids,
Okay.
bikes,
Yeah, all the time.
all the time.
That's a great idea.
so that might not be a bad, to try it anyhow, we'll
Yeah.
try following Pat's recommendation.
I'm wondering if we first try the watch pedestrian to see if that might help versus try to just
Or-
immediately turn it into a one-way alley.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that would
That's-
help,
It'll work.
yeah.
That would probably be the lesser way to go. But 'cause I can see this turning into a pretty big.
yeah, something, yeah.
Yeah, if people are using it, because I feel bad for people getting out onto Rochester Road,
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and
It's-
it's just, in rush hour traffic, it is just terrible to get, you know, to either Main Street or rush hour.
And it's not helpful that it's not a city-owned road. It's owned by the Road Commission of Oakland County too. So that makes it
Rochester is.
Rochester Road, yeah. So it makes it a little bit more difficult to put any signage or anything else in there right away. Okay, any other discussions on this item at all?
Somebody want to make?
Does anyone want to make a motion?
And to put the watch for pedestrian signs up.
And I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor installing a watch pedestrian sign,
That is for what, south? On the south end, correct?
south end and north end?
Both ends, maybe? Instead of the one way?
Is there a preference on,
I wonder if we need it at both ends, because the north side,
Yeah.
you
Pat,
need it
wanna-
because the
you wanna
sight
add anything, or
distance.
Is there anything you can?
And the south side, the ice cream, there's going to be people walking.
Well, in the summertime, yeah, that's a busy
Yeah.
place. It really is.
Pat might have something to add.
Yeah, I mean, I'd just chime in and say both ends probably makes sense.
That's what I
Yeah.
think.
When I was looking at it, I was thinking northbound just because of that blind corner.
Right,
of
right,
the
you can't
building,
see
but-
there, but then
Put
we
it
have
at both
that,
ends
that
then?
ice
Yeah,
cream is
probably
pretty
both ends
busy.
makes sense.
Okay.
okay. Do you want to revise the motion then to indicate which locations?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to put the watch for pedestrian signage on both the north side at Lincoln on the alley and at the Bowers side of the alley.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, all those in favor of installing a watch pedestrian sign on the north side at Lincoln and Alley and the south side at Bowers and Alley, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion has passed. Thank you for providing the information. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up under old business is Jefferson Street parking.
Okay, Jefferson Street parking, I reported on it last week, and Pat spoke to the issues. And we had, board members were gonna go and take a look at it and see what they thought, so I guess we can open it up for discussion. First off, are you folks here about Jefferson Street?
No, sir.
Oh, you're for the Gerald?
sir.
Okay. Any comments about anything that anybody found there?
I did not drive by there during the day. I drove by in the evening. Not when the possible issue was occurring during the day.
Okay.
Did anyone else?
I didn't get a chance to get there either.
Okay. Did you discuss or talk to any residents or business owners nearby?
No, I did not.
Okay.
This was kind of a tough time of year to do that with the holidays.
Holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we can put this off and do a little more research on it and figure out.
Yeah, and I think too, you might have less people with the snow parking there too, because there wasn't much there when I went by.
Yeah, when I
So
go
I
by
don't know if
there, I
it
don't
was the
see that
wrong
much
time.
either, but there are vehicles parked there. I have seen
Yeah.
vehicles parked down there.
Well, why don't we try again and have everybody drive by when they get a chance and talk about it next time?
Yep.
Okay, we'll further study it.
Okay, that concludes old business. Next up, new business. If there's any public comments, you can come ahead to the microphone and mention any public comments.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I told you guys before, my name is Patrick Schminsky. I live on Gerald. I think I'm late to the game here. It is December, and I think I should have been here in November and October and possibly September because you guys have changed the parking on my street, and I didn't know anything about it until the big orange flags were in front of my house. I was never notified that anything was going to change. I'm extremely disappointed in that, as here I am after the fact, scratching my head, wondering what's going on. I watched the past meetings, and I hear all this inaccurate stuff, and I'm just, it's actually mind-boggling. When I first moved here 30 years ago, you could park on my street. I remember I sold my first car. I parked it right next to the manor on 14, not on 14, on Gerald, with a for sale sign. So there was parking up and down that street, both sides, when I first got here. And that's a fact. So now I can't park there. And I don't really care that I can't park there because I don't park there. But we got one guy on the street wants to come here and squawk and make a video, which I didn't get to see because I wasn't here 3 months ago. And he has trouble backing out of his driveway. It's like, I don't know why that doesn't make any sense. That there was, the 4 years that he's lived here, there's never been parking opposite his house. So he should have never had trouble backing out of his driveway. And now I can't park in front of my house because the one guy wants to squawk about it. And the fire department, that'd be great. I support the fire and police 100%. If you told me no parking on any Clawson street, period, because the fire department wants it that way, I'm good with that. I have no problem with that, but you're not saying that. You're only saying it on my street. I talked to Captain Engel a few times about this today. In fact, I talked to him today about it, and he doesn't really agree with the way the no parking has been set up on the east side. Now, Chief, I understand you have talked to the chief, the fire chief, and I just watched that last. You know, I've obviously not privileged to that conversation. Captain Engel wasn't aware of that conversation either. But he's telling the problem is not on Gerald. Well, let me rephrase it. There was a problem north, on the north end where the manor lets out. Obviously, when they park their fire trucks, their biggest truck blocks their driveway. Every fire, it's exactly, he showed me the diagram. It's the exact same thing every time. 3 trucks on the inside, the big one blocks. There's no traffic coming in or out, so they can do their thing, and that's great. 90% of the time, they go out 14 Mile Road. Very rarely do they come south to Madison, but on occasion they do. But that's where the congestion is, on the north side of Gerald, not Gerald and Madison. And then he tells me, the problem isn't on Gerald, the problem's on Madison. And I said, well, I agree with you there, we knew that, but the no parking is on Gerald. And he says, yeah, they did it backwards. I said, I know they did it backwards because the no parking on the east doesn't help the fire truck get out. No parking on the west would help the fire department get out and make a left onto Madison. Because that's where you want your rear tires as far to the curb as you can get it. If anyone drives a big truck, I've driven big rigs my whole life, you don't want to start your turn in the middle of that intersection. You want to be as far to the curb as you can. So I don't know if there's anything I can say or do, because it's a done deal. Or is it a done deal, or is this a thing in progress? Are we gonna see how this works and take a vote later, or is it actually a done deal?
The way it works, this process, is it gets brought to us as a board essentially provides a recommendation to either research it more, which we did, and then came back and discussed it further, which was mentioned in the meeting minutes and previous recordings. And then we do a recommendation to city council, and then city council takes an action. As mentioned in the meeting minutes and stuff, we'll be here from residents, we'll discuss it with the board. Anything we do or recommend can get brought back to city council. So it's not necessarily a set deal, if I'm stating this correctly, but it was essentially,
The council can decide to, for us to take action in another way.
yeah.
But this was based on, and I don't know if, it's based on the fact that the traffic control orders were all messed up down there to start with. There was signs that weren't consistent with the area.
Well, when I watched the video of last month's, and my neighbor says, I don't understand the sign that says no parking from here to corner. Really, how did he get a license? I'm embarrassed. That guy lives in Clawson. If you're looking at a sign that says no parking from here to corner, it's the corner you're looking at.
Well, the
Ask my
sign,
16-year-old son,
actually,
he
the
knows.
sign that was the problem was the sign that just said no parking. And it didn't really give a clear zone of where the parking was permitted and where it wasn't.
On the east side?
That was on the east side. It didn't say from here to corner at that sign, that particular sign. That sign actually we found out was left over when 14 Mile Road was closed down for the reconstruction. And it was an inadvertent deal where it was never removed.
Right.
And what happened was when we went down there because of resident complaints, because the manor decided to, notified us the day before they were resurfacing their lot.
Of course.
It caused a real storm down there.
Well,
And so-
no, it didn't cause a real storm. It was a little hiccup. Anyone who tells you that it was a real storm is
Well,
exaggerating
I can
a
tell you
lot.
that I got a lot of phone calls that were complaining about things that were down there.
It wasn't that bad. I live right there.
Okay, well, I'm just telling you.
Okay.
And when our officers went down there to issue violations, it was unclear, really. I think that particular sign was kind of a hiccup there. That was, so at that point, we had a traffic study down there. We looked at the area. We did talk to the fire chief.
Right.
Said, what concerns, I didn't talk to Engel, Captain Engel. I talked to the fire chief, Rick Dulesky.
Right.
And I asked him the concerns. I also had heard from other firefighters about difficulty they had pulling trucks out of when they were exiting that driveway.
The
and when they were
driveway.
leaving.
Absolutely.
And so-
The manor's driveway, 100%.
Okay, so the reason for that was we didn't want to restrict it completely all the way down. We found that the street was in I think it was a 26-inch or 26-foot across, where
That's right.
to really support traffic on both sides of the street, it should be 30 to 31 feet, which we've got a lot of streets around Clawson that are like that. In fact,
Right, I measured Madison today because I live on the corner. They're both 25.8.
Yep.
Both of them are identical.
So, in fact, the board has discussed looking at it citywide and come up with a plan to make sure that there's plenty of access so that we don't have a situation where a fire apparatus isn't able to make it down the street, especially this time of year when you have snow encroaching onto the road.
Absolutely.
So you have cars parking out another 6-8 inches, on each side of the curb, and then you make that, that gets down pretty narrow, especially when you have parking on both sides. You're losing another foot and a half.
Right.
And so it wasn't done willy-nilly. It was done after a traffic study was done. The board tried to get the input from the fire department, which was,
Right.
the head of the fire department was the fire chief. Can talk to Captain Engel and have him maybe talk to his chief about
Well,
what
they're
his
having a meeting tonight,
recommendations
because
are.
I went to talk to them today in hopes that I could get a few firemen here tonight. They have their meeting, the same time you have your meeting, and they're having an election tonight. Wasn't gonna happen, no way, no how. I would love to see you talk to firemen. I mean, I'm hearing firemen, firemen, firemen. I want what they want. If they say that this is right, then great. But I don't think that's what you're going to hear. And I don't think they were asked. Now, I understand the chief, you talked about it, but
Well, it's not necessarily a consensus. I mean, you don't go out and it's not a, you try to do things that are the way of standards of the traffic community. Okay, that's why we had a traffic engineer go down there and report on it. And they provided that report to the board. The board took that information. We were told that, okay, let's talk to the fire department because it's an issue. That's being a high rise. It's got, a lot of issues that could happen where you might have a multiple alarm fire there. So
And
you
that
have
was-
to have a clear area on that side of the.
and that was one of the things I discussed with Captain Engel today. And he said the only thing that would happen if you were calling in additional firefighters, it would be the city of Troy because they have the taller ladder truck. I think that's the right word term. And they have one that's tall enough to get, Royal Oak doesn't even have one tall enough either. So it would only be Troy and they'd be coming from the north going to 14.
What
So
about-
that was my
and then-
main
and
concern.
you have also guys that are off duty that are responding because it's a volunteer fire department.
Mm-hmm.
You have a place to stage their cars when they get there on the scene. That's the way it was explained to me by the
Right,
chief.
and they have been for 30 years that I know of, because I've lived there for 30. And they've always done it, and it's worked out fantastic. And matter of fact, big kudos to the fireman. I believe your husband's a fireman, right? Kudos to those guys. They're heroes. They're great. But they always pull it off. It's fantastic. So if they're not complaining, I don't know. I just don't see it. But anyways, is there any more going to be done to this, or is the no parking that's currently in place, is that going to stay the way it is?
Sir, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I'm missing apparently exactly what it is you're complaining about.
Well-
Is it the no parking signs? Is it, what is it exactly, so I can understand this?
Here's my big concern. The no parking on Gerald isn't really the issue. The issue is Madison. So is Madison next? So am I going to have absolutely no parking? Or is it going to stay the way it is? And how am I going to know it? If you guys decide to expand this further, how am I going to know to come here and pipe up? Because I didn't know about it last time. How am I going to know about it next time? Does that make sense? Did I answer your question clearly?
Yeah, you did as far as the communication part of it goes. But so you're not happy with the no parking that has been placed on the street, is that correct?
Actually, it's not that big a deal. I'm just surprised. I'm surprised that it's there.
Okay, so you're more upset with the fact that you weren't informed that this action was taking place?
That's definitely upset about that.
Okay.
And what's going to happen in the future. Because if you go to Captain Engel, he's going to tell you Madison's a problem. So is that on the
Well,
next month's
that's-
agenda?
If Madison's a problem, you're bringing it forward, we'll do a traffic study down there and see if we need to restrict the parking there. And then I can guarantee I'm going to probably have about a dozen
Right.
You will.
residents from Madison saying,
Right.
Yeah.
why
And
why
we're-
are you restricting parking
Right.
on one side of my street? And that's the board has talked about it. We're saying, do we go citywide with this? And then what kind of a stir
Blowback.
is it going to be?
What community impact will it affect?
Right. And where this was brought foremost to this wasn't done just off the cuff. This was
Well,
brought
it was
forward
to
by
me
a resident.
because I did,
and
well, yeah,
with-
one guy complained.
Well, I guess I'm a little confused too. I guess if you want us to look at Madison, we can look at Madison.
No, not
We can
really, 'cause I
study
like-
it,
I
and we
like
can-
the parking,
we can
though. I liked it
possibly
the way it
restrict
was.
parking on one side on Madison, but that's not in the plans to do
That's not in the
that.
plans. That's good. Okay.
Right now, we were trying to remedy a situation that was down there. It needed new signage down there. The board got input from people, and we implemented some signage change. So,
I mean, that's how it happens. We had a complaint. We addressed the complaint with the complainant and came up with a solution based on some additional conversation between the board, in between, like the fire chief and the chief of police here,
And the engineer study
and
on
the
it.
engineering study, and then came up with a solution to that complaint.
Well, the engineer study says the street's too narrow.
Yes,
And my contention is all the streets are too narrow.
that's correct.
Well,
I'm,
that's-
but my street doesn't have parking and yours does.
Yes, we actually have expanded to talk about the fact that there are very, very many narrow streets in Clawson. And we need to take a look at that, take a study of that to see just how many there are and is there's better solutions for what we're doing.
Madison Heights only
But-
park on one side of the road.
And, maybe that's a solution, I don't know. But
Yeah, because.
I'm just trying to answer your question as best as I can, that, this wasn't something where the board came in one day and sat down and said, geez, well, did anybody see Gerald? Let's restrict that parking. That doesn't happen that way.
That's how it happened to me, because I didn't know about the meetings that were going on because no one notified us.
Well, I don't have an answer for that part of
Neither
it
do I.
yet.
That's why I came here, because I wake up, there's this big orange flag in my front yard. It's like, oh, that's odd. I talked to the fire department. I didn't talk to the fire department. I talked to the one guy in the fire department that I
Right.
know, and he don't know anything about it. He's surprised. He goes, that's never a problem. Madison isn't the problem. So you're helping the fire department. He don't know nothing about it. I don't know. So you're not the only one confused. The fire department's confused, and I'm confused.
Okay.
How sad. How sad that is. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Quick question. You've been talking to other residents nearby. Have there been other neighbors or homeowners nearby you that have complaints about the no parking or said anything to you about this issue?
It really only going to affect 3 people.
Okay.
Gerald is very small. Sure,
Yeah,
was there
it's a-
10
it's a
people that
sugar
lives on?
block.
There's only 3 people. Myself, the people that live to my directly to my north, they don't park in the street unless they have people over because they've got a big driveway. And the people directly across from me who they do park in the street. And on my personal situation, now this doesn't affect you because we all have our personal things. I'm going to have 4 cars coming. I currently have 3 because I got teenagers. So, I would be putting a car out in front of my house. I not currently, not very often, but in the future I would be. I have a 2-car garage. Unfortunately, I'm also on a slab, so everything that would be in my basement is in my garage. I can get 1 car in the garage, 2 in the driveway, so I'm good with 3. But then when I come up with a 4th car, then I'm going to have a parking issue. But because Madison's always jammed up with the neighbors' cars. But again, that's not your problem with the signs. That's my problem with parking. But you're very curious. You start closing streets and closing parking. You start expanding it, and then the next thing, where am I going to park? On the lawn, on my front lawn, or?
And I'm not sure offhand, where is your house located at on Gerald?
I'm in the northeast corner of
On the
Gerald.
east side.
Okay.
Gerald and Madison.
Gerald and Madison. Okay, so you're down further south of where the entrance is to the manor.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's 2 houses on that side, and I'm the southern.
The
house.
southern one. Okay.
So. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
For the board, is there any discussions on this item?
Well, I can see that this will be an oncoming thing if we need a width of 31 feet to have parking on both sides of the street. And so since so many of Clawson streets are only 26
Right,
point
and that's-
something,
that's where-
we're going to start running into big
That's gonna be
problems.
It-
Especially with areas where some houses don't even have driveways.
Yeah. So, and that's gonna, in the end, it'll have to be a discussion, and I guess maybe, and working with the fire department to see what their needs are for access to different areas.
I thought that the fire department said, because if they come down Madison and turn onto Girard, so that corner right there, they need that east side clear for they can turn there.
I know the fire chief's
That's-
issues with me was the staging area down along the side, on the east side of the road, which is where it's limited parking there, because it's right up on the curb, the same curb as what the manor is. So, I didn't talk to Troy Engel, I don't know.
Well, it's the chief that,
Right, I got it from
The
Well,
chief
maybe
and the
they
fi-
have-
and the fire marshal.
right.
right.
If they're having their meeting tonight, maybe they have a discussion about this then,
Yeah,
their meeting, who knows?
It sounds like his biggest concern is the communication piece of it. So, is there a policy of being obligated to inform every resident?
I don't think there is.
Well, it's posted in City Hall, with the meeting, what the
Right,
agenda is of the
right.
meeting.
And, yeah,
I
and
don't know in the
Ted-
past where we've had a mass mailing or anything like that, or
No.
notification.
and technically, it's located within the public right of way, the new signs being installed. So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily on someone's,
Well, what the issue is it comes down to, and we see it all the time, is that there's a sense of ownership for the parking on the street in front of someone's house. And when there's either parking from the businesses that come in for the, and park in front of their house, up on Selfridge,
Yeah.
North Selfridge, by
Right.
the Health Quest, now on Jefferson Street.
Yeah,
And it's, you try to set up parking regulations for traffic flow, not necessarily saying you can't park here because it's in front of somebody's house. And then if you restrict it, then you're restricting it for the resident also.
right, right.
So the resident can't park there either if make it that way, unless you make it a permit parking only and give that resident the only permit.
do we have any permit parking like that on
The permit
roads?
parking that we have is in our municipal lots.
Okay, just a local, just parking lots,
And
not
that's ju-
necessarily in
yep,
public right of
and it's
way.
just, and those, I think there may be a couple in, it's generally because there are residential, like apartments. I know at the southeast city lot, there's an apartment complex it's a unit, it's a multi-unit apartment house that's right in the middle of the parking lot, the city lot. And there's also some room above some of the businesses, like Da Nang, those businesses,
Right.
there's residential. And because of the way things were, that's where their parking was through the years. And if you were to say, because we ran into the permit parking, because when we restricted no parking between the hours of 3 and 6 on those lots. So we had to come up with a scheme to allow those certain people that necessitated a place to park their vehicles
Right.
to park by permit only. That's the only permits that we have in town.
I thought we had some down by the south end of,
There could,
because I remember an issue with parking when they expanded, I think, southward, God, I can't think of the terms now, for the city group anyways,
The DDA.
DDA.
okay.
When the DDA expanded down southward, I thought there was an issue with some parking there, and we ended up doing some kind of a permit or,
Yeah, and I'd have to look up that's been quite a while
Yeah.
since that happened. And I know we have a book with the permits, the permit parking. So it is done, the permit parking is done.
It's been mostly on municipal lots, not
That's
necessarily
where
on
most-
public streets.
That's mostly where it,
I really don't know how to answer a question when you have something like, and I can understand what this gentleman was saying, you wake up in the morning, you get up and you look out your window and here's a big yellow flag because it wasn't there yesterday when I went to bed, and I wake up in the morning and here it is, and nobody's told me about anything happening and whatever, so
yeah.
I don't know what a good answer is to that. You can't do mass mailings. I mean, you'll run the city out of money doing mass mailings.
And then you run to the
Well, it's
issue
on-
of
and
even
it-
how
and
far do you
It is
go
on-
for the limits of the
It is on social
mailing?
media, what the agenda is of the meetings, what minutes are, you can view meetings online. I guess I think that was the main complaint there was the communication with that, so. But the resident that was here was expressing the fact that he was expressing, when he originally came, that he was like a voice of the neighborhood.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
could feel for them when you have a situation where you have the Clawson Manor residents constantly parking in front of your house and not utilizing the spaces that they have
Right.
on the lot.
Plus, you had the businesses on the corner. Wasn't that part of that discussion that we had, was you had the businesses on the west side, northwest corner, that were either their customers or some of them were parking in that street
Well, we
area?
used to, that came up on Washington Street. I know the collision shop.
Right.
Yeah.
We did some work over there to try to, because they were parking their vehicles down Washington Street, causing a real ruckus.
Okay, maybe
And so
I'm
we,
just confused.
but over in that area, on that side, that was pretty much between driveways, and there was already legal ways of restricting parking because people were blocking driveways or people were parking in front of fire hydrants. There was a lot of things going on there that we could yellow curb those areas to keep people from parking there.
Well, on Girard, I thought the east side was no parking, the whole east side of the street anyway.
No, it came down to the driveway.
Okay.
Yeah, it was from the driveway approach of the manor north to Main Street, and the sign was kind of confusing
The
because
sign was, there was a sign south
There was a
of the
sign south
driveway,
of the
and it was a
driveway.
lone, no parking
Yes,
sign.
and it said
Right.
no
And
parking,
it said no
period.
parking, and it's like, well, what does this mean?
What does it mean? Right.
And that's what I was trying to explain to the
Right.
gentleman, was that was confusing. So that's why that was revisited, so. Because it had to be defined. Where does that, is it-
where's the sign, where's it,
yeah,
it
where
says
is it
saying no
How far-
parking from,
How far down can I not park? When I
Right.
have one lone no parking sign there, so.
Yeah, and I think you're right. The people kind of think that they own the front of their house on the street.
That's right.
Because look, in the 4th of July, these people have their lawn chairs out, or they put cones out in front of their street,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know?
They do.
I'm surprised people just don't move them.
That there's more fights as a result of some of that.
Yeah.
okay, any other discussions or follow-up items for the?
All I had was the
Gerald?
two issues that were follow-up before the Gerald
Okay,
conversation.
any other discussions on Gerald at all? No. Okay, any other new business from the board?
Madam Chairman, I'd just like to bring up an issue for my wife. We're very much aware of the fact that 3 strikes and you're out. If you miss 3 consecutive meetings, you can be asked to leave the board. And she would very much like to stay on the board. Unfortunately, she needs a little more time. And so if the board would, I'd like them to at least consider kind of keeping her name on the roster for the time being until we get some better conclusions.
I don't see a problem with that. She's on medical leave.
Yep, I would concur.
I concur too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other new business items? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.